So today we're going to show you how to make this modern looking thank you card with the matching envelope. And the supplies used in this one were the black and gold Pentel sign pen with a brush tip, the Tombow dual brush pen in black, and then also the Tombow mono drawing pen in black, as well as the mono eraser by Tombow. And of course we used a light pad to trace the original sketch from the draft page onto the final project, and a pencil and ruler. So stay tuned. If you watch till the end, we'll tell you how to get a template that you can download so that you can make the same card for yourself. So I started off with some pencil sketches just to get the general idea of what I wanted this card to look like. I ended up on this little sketch down here and then blew it up and made it a little bit more finished in this section. This is still a draft though. So the main components that I wanted in this card was, first of all, I just wanted it to be really simple. I also wanted it to look a little bit modern, which is why I have some bouncy lettering in here. I wanted to extend it all the way from the edges of the card. And then I also wanted to mix script with capital sans-serif lettering. So this is my draft, and I'm going to show you how I use a light pad to transfer this design onto my final card. So this is going to be the final card that I'll be using, and I'm going to place it just over my draft, and then I'm going to grab my light pad. So this is a light pad. Here's the little on button. So I'm just going to place my piece on top of the light pad. And then when I turn it on, I'll be able to see, can you see through how I can see the design that's behind the card on the actual piece of paper. So the reason that I do this is rather than wasting a bunch of cards, I can plan out my design on, this is just regular copy paper, as many times as I need. And then if I make any mistakes, I can just grab a new sheet of paper and not really worry about wasting my nice cards. Okay, so for this card, I'm going to make it, again, very simple. So I'm just going to use black. So I'm going to line this up where I need it to be. And I could shift the whole thing up or down if I wanted. I think I'm actually going to shift it down a bit so that it's not perfectly centered. Okay, so I'm just going to trace over it, and it doesn't have to be exactly following the design. If there's anything that feels more natural as I'm going, I'll just adjust as needed. So crossing this T and connecting it to the H, you can do it a couple different ways. You could either start here and cross and do it all in one motion, or you can do the T, then do the H loop, and then connect it this way. I usually find it a little bit easier to do it this way because if you start here and then try to loop the H, sometimes you get a little bit messed up. Okay, and then for this S, to finish it off, instead of continuing this way, I'm actually going to start over here and connect it this way. Okay. All right, so then the next part that I wanted to do was mix some sans-serif capital lettering with this script lettering. So I have the word many in here, and right now it doesn't look very centered, so I'm actually going to shift this over a little bit. So now my script lettering isn't matching up with my original draft, but I do have this capital lettering in the right place. So I'm using the other end of my Tombow dual brush pen, and this is the bullet tip. This is why this is such a great pen, because you can use both sides and the colors match perfectly. Now, it's not really important with black because black usually matches other blacks depending on the brand, but if you were using a color, then you could get both the bullet and the brush tip and they would match perfectly. Okay, so many thanks. So this is the modern card, and next I'm going to show you the envelope that goes with it. So for this envelope, I wanted to keep a couple of the same design components in mind, being the bouncy modern lettering, kind of stretching from one end to the other, and then also mixing the script with the capitals. So I did a couple of different attempts at this and ended up going with this for the name and then just a simple capital address. So I used my light pad already and got all my words on here with pencil. And then I'm going to go over it with my pens. I'm going to keep it matching the card and just do simple black. And instead of using my dual brush pen, because that's a pretty big tip on the pen, I'm going to use a smaller tipped pen. So this is the Pentel sign pen with a brush tip, and I was actually using the red version of the pen to practice. So let's just get started. So I already have it written out in pencil. I'm just going to trace over it, and actually instead of starting over here for the K, I usually like to start it at the top and come down, and then I can go back in and add that part. It just feels a little bit easier for me. Now the tough part about writing on envelopes is that you have, especially if you're using a thin envelope like I am, you might catch on like the paper that's in the back, so just try to go slowly. So you might notice that for these M's in the word Kimmy, I'm making them a little bit different from each other. They're not exactly the same, and that's intentional. Usually when I have double letters, especially if I'm doing a bouncier script, I like to vary them so that they don't look exactly the same as each other. Okay, so then I did that tail. You can see I kind of went over the capitals that I had penciled out, which is totally fine. I can just make those a little bit higher when I go write them in. Okay, so for the sans-serif writing on here, I'm going to be using a monoline pen, so one that doesn't have a brush tip. So this is the Tombow mono drawing pen, and just to show you what it looks like, no matter how hard I press, it's always going to be the same thickness, which is why it's a monoline pen, not a brush pen. So I'll be using this for all of the capital letters. Okay, so let's start with the last name, Kimmy Schmidt. So capital lettering is kind of up to you and whatever your style is. I'm just trying to keep it consistent with this card that I made, and of course amongst the other letters. So like one thing that I like to do is when you cross letters like the A or the H, you can cross them a little bit lower than the center line. Also, like, you want to pick how your Y is going to be, so you can either make a Y look like this, or you could do that where it's more of a symmetrical shape. And then, like I was saying, for the N, you could either do like this, which is pretty standard, or I usually like to cross this last line a little bit higher up, like that. So I would just suggest experimenting with different ways to do capital letters. Okay, so then this address, I'm just going to do monoline again. I'm going to be erasing the pencil lines anyway, so it doesn't matter if I'm exactly following them. And of course I just made up this address. Okay, so there it is. Here we have our card with a matching envelope. And I'm actually going to add one more thing to make it look a little bit more Thanksgiving and fall-like. So I'm just gonna add a little leaf. I'm gonna start with the envelope and just add a leaf right here. I'll show you how I make leaves. I start with the stem like this, and then I go in and fill in the actual leaf part. Like that. And then I usually make the bottom a little bit thicker like this. Okay, so it's just a cute little modern looking leaf, nothing too fancy. And I'm gonna add the same thing on my card. That. I'll do a different style right here. So instead of making these rounded, I'm going to go like this. Make this one really big. Let's make it going this way. Okay, there. Now I think it's ready. I like to do things in odd numbers, and I think this looks great. So we have just 5 little leaves here, 1 leaf here. They match, they're cute, they're modern, nothing too fancy. I love it. So hopefully you guys like it. All I'm gonna do is erase the pencil lines on here, and then we are ready to send this card.